Hi, I'm Professor Beck, Strah.
And I'm producer Brit, and you're listening to Prison Breakdown.
2, 3, break!
Hate to spoil his fun, but we're gonna bust out of here.
2, 3, break!
I'm locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
2, 3, break!
I can honestly say I'm a changed man. No danger to society here. God's honest truth.
2, 3, break!
I'm not leaving this cell. I'll get out my way. The right way.
2, 3, break!
Ahoy, dudes! Welcome back to another episode of Prison Breakdown. I am your co-host, Beck Strah. Hi, greetings, hello, welcome. Joining me is my friend, my brother from the same mother, Producer Brit.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome to you. How you doing, Producer Brit?
I'm doing okay-ish. I don't know if you heard
Okay-ish.
the news about the Postal Service, the old USPS there, but I work for the USPS, and the old news states that Trump's looking at dissolving the Postal Board of Governors and essentially doing like a hostile takeover of the USPS and maybe privatizing them. So in my personal life, I'm pretty good. I'm going to be moving here in like a week, which is pretty exciting. You know, if the USPS is privatized, that like takes away like any incentive I have to work for the USPS. One thing I like about it is it is heavily unionized. And you know, I like that. I like being in the union. I like being a union steward. I'm going to Steward College here in a couple days, which should be cool. But
What is Steward College? Like, what do they teach you? They teach you how to like fight with your boss.
Yeah,
Not like fist fight.
No.
But
No. We
fight with
actually,
words.
we do grappling sessions for like fucking doing graps with the postal the
Defensive
managers
tactics.
and yeah, this is how to choke out the postmaster. All right, so every postmaster gets both blood and oxygen right through the throat. Okay, and so you want to cut off both effectively.
Aren't you saying postmasters are normal human beings? Because we've been raised to think of them as like an alien race that is abnormal. I've never seen a postmaster before in my life.
No, you probably have. Postmasters, honestly, crazily enough, look like normal people. They're
Okay.
not normal people, but they look like them.
So should we be taking down? Wait, do they hang up a picture of the president in the post office like they do in federal buildings?
No.
Well, since we don't have anything to take down, we should just hang up like a signed photo of Cliff Clavin from the show Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to take anything down in the first place, so we can't get in trouble for it.
Okay. There's a signed picture of Danny Glover in the post office.
Really?
He visited our post office in like 1989 and signed a picture. He was like on a tour of post offices to like thank them. For some reason, I was very confused about the whole impetus for this situation, but like he came to the post office, signed a picture, and we've had the same like faded ass picture of Danny Glover hanging up in the post office since 1989.
Yo, let me tell you, I love that. I wish more celebrities would go on tours of post offices.
Yeah, me too.
If they did that, maybe the post office would have better
You know who needs
better
to do
juice.
this? You know who's prime candidate number one? Mr. Post Malone.
You should do an album or like a benefit concert for the post office.
He should at least cover The Mail Must Go Through.
Oh, yeah, and no matter if it rains or snows,
Mm-hmm.
mail must go through. We love that song here, and we formally endorse that on the podcast.
Yeah.
In other news, I must say, our comrade Eric Bronson has taken ill.
Mhm.
That's why he's been absent on and off. And Eric, if you're out there listening, we miss you. Come back soon.
Yeah. Convalesce quickly.
Yes. Go toward the light. And
Go
we're
toward-
happy to be joined by your ghost. If Just come back as like a Star Wars ghost so we can still talk to you.
Yeah, we'll just get together on Zoom here and just do a seance and bring you back just for an episode. And you'll be like, I was enjoying my peace. Why are you asking me to do this?
There's got to be like an Ouija podcast where people try to communicate with the dead. There's got to be some real bullshit occult podcasts out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm here for it. I want to hear about it. I don't want to listen to them at all, but I want to hear about it because that is interesting, dumb shit.
Absolutely. So, what's new with you?
With me, just sitting here thinking about how much I liked the soundtrack to the Drew Carey Show.
Mm-hmm.
And how they don't make them like they used to. That was for you, Eric. Our man from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm gravy. I'm also coming off being sick. Rhode Island's been hit hard by whatever this is. Call it like a freak storm, but of mucus, and it's been disgusting. And so I'm finally back on my feet and feeling okay. Ready to talk about prison stuff, and I want to hear some news that maybe gives me less of the blues.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Here we go. Here's some news from the Razor Wire.
Fresh news, hot off the razor wire.
All right, so this one comes from NBC5 in Burlington, Vermont.
I love Vermont.
From Michael Cusinelli. So speaking of Post Malone, this one comes out of Malone, New York. I
thought it came out of Burlington. Make up your mind.
Well, I mean, that's where they're reporting this from. So,
okay.
Just close by enough to New York that they can drive there and report on it, I think.
That's about right. I agree.
So, New York corrections officers are protesting and in some areas holding unsanctioned strikes outside prison facilities this week as current and former COs seek to bring attention to what they say are unfair working conditions and restrictive laws that put their safety at risk. So the unsanctioned protest movement has grown significantly over the course of several days this month, with the Wildcat movement growing to at least 30 facilities across the state as of Wednesday, according to the Associated Press.
What is the Wildcat movement?
So a Wildcat strike is like a spontaneous strike that like kind of just catches movement with like word of mouth. It's a type of strike tactic that involves like a lot of solidarity and a lot of places striking at once.
There's a lot of CO unions that won't allow strikes because they are an essential service, and what do you do with all these inmates if they were to strike?
Right, exactly. That's a lot of federal and state workers are subjected to laws like that, which I think really stink. Like postal unions aren't allowed to strike either, which is lame. They haven't since the 1979 when they did strike, and it like shut down the entire country.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now tell me, what is causing this tension? What are the unsafe working conditions they're talking about?
So unsafe working conditions. Let's see here. Correction staff in New York have faced a number of issues related to working conditions that have been cited as reasons for the protest movement. A controversial memo sent to prison superintendents statewide by Corrections Commissioner Daniel F. Marcello III said staffing shortages at several facilities have prompted the agency to redefine its work. The memo also said, quote, 70% of our original staffing model is the new 100%. Unquote.
Repeat that?
70% of our original staffing model is the new 100%, unquote.
Oh, I see. So they've had to like make the best of what they can with 70% staffing.
They've just accepted that 70% is the new 100%, so they're not even trying to make it up to 100% staffing anymore, which I think is problematic. So members of the union have also expressed concern and unrest over the closure of several prisons across the state, and according to Hearst-owned Albany Times Union. Staff shortages have exacerbated issues at many prisons across New York, and inmate assaults on corrections staff have become more widespread. At an upstate correctional facility in Malone, a maximum security prison in remote Franklin County, a series of chemical exposures caused the prison to go into lockdown in late January. The lockdown came after nearly 36 prison staff were either sent to the infirmary or an area hospital over the course of several days after interactions with inmates exposed them to an unknown chemical that caused lightheadedness, dizziness, vomiting, and fainting. Some of those.
If I might interject, you mentioned a prison at Malone. What if Post Malone did his concert at the post office in Malone, New York?
Ooh, or the prison in Malone, New York. Then he could do
Either
like
way,
a Johnny
that's fine,
Cash
but-
style thing. Yeah.
Yes. We can do both. We have it at one, broadcast it at the other.
Ooh, a prisons and post offices tour. There you go.
Yes, this is an untapped market.
Every town has at least one.
I want to know what other celebrities are going on tours of post offices. I think back to like my freshman year of college, and I had one day in a class it was a political science class, and the professor had taken his family to every state capital in the United States, driving an RV around the United States, stopping at every state capital with his family and stopping at the Capitol building. And I thought, like, this guy is nuts. Like, that is a crazy thing to do with your family. And I dropped the class immediately because I did not want to take it with a guy who cared that much about state capitals.
That's got to take like at least a month of your life. Like probably
For
more
something
like
that is
2 or
not
3
that
months.
interesting.
No, that's like boring as hell.
He subjected his kid to this. And that's what made me think, like, why would I want to take this class?
Oh, wild.
Have you ever had a professor or a teacher like that where you're like, I don't want to take this class?
Yeah, a lot of them, but I take the class anyway, and I always regret it. Like
Oh,
a good professor like makes a class, you know.
That's true. A good professor matters for the class entirely because it can be interesting content. Shitty professor, and you're stuck.
Right.
Anyway, let's get back to this. So they are having staffing shortages. Unsafe, which is creating unsafe working conditions, which that is problematic. Unsafe, I'm sure, for both COs and for inmates.
Yeah. So local representatives, including New York Assemblyman Billy Jones, called for full body scanners to be implemented at prisons following the chemical exposure incidents to prevent illegal substances from entering prisons and putting staff at risk, which I don't know why they haven't really done this already. Like, they're still fucking around with like cavity searches and stuff. And I'm like, that's a violation. Like a full body scanner is not a violation, and it gets the same job done, I think, more effectively.
Yeah, I know that they have them here in Rhode Island. And if the little estate can pick them up, come on, Delaware or
New York,
Arkansas, or wherever. I'm sure you can afford. You just pony up for 1 or 2.
Yeah, right.
You'll be fine. Bring them to the reception facilities. And if we have them at airports, why would you not have it? Just for the safety of other inmates, just for the safety of COs. What we had were like metal detectors that you would walk through, and then there was a bench that detected metal where the inmates would have to put their chin on it, and then they would have to sit on it to make sure that there's nothing in their mouth or rectum that would set off a metal detector. So it wasn't quite a full body scanner. It was like a piecemeal full body scanner.
That's cool though. I like that. That's interesting.
It seemed to work as far as I know.
Although I don't love I don't know. I feel like it's kind of dehumanizing to make someone like put their face on something and then put their ass on something, knowing that everyone's asses have been there.
There are different parts that you would put the face and ass on. That would be incredibly dehumanizing. But no more dehumanizing than having to strip search people, which
it's very
feels very dehumanizing.
Yeah, very, very much so. Let's see. Okay, this concludes here. The Union Western Region Vice President Kenny Gold said working conditions have been deteriorating for months with mandatory shifts of 24 hours or more. He said the state has ignored officers' pleas for help and that these officers have finally had enough. Quote, they've done nothing to address recruitment and retention. They've made open promises that they've never come through with, unquote, Gold said. So, yeah. That's a prison strike of its own. I don't know. I approve of safe working conditions for anybody, and that chemical thing sounds like some real bad stuff. And I approve, collective action. I don't know how I feel about corrections officers, being that they're kind of cops, having like powerful unions. Yeah.
Corrections officers, when I was a CO, I stayed so far out of union politics because it felt like an all-consuming entity that so many people would get really wrapped up in, and this fight between officers and the higher-ups. And I never really had any issues with my immediate higher-ups. Everybody seemed to be totally fine and working in my best interest. But I get why. Like, I get why you need it, and like you are the main benefit that was related to me was the corrections officer union. If anything goes wrong, you are provided with an attorney. You have representation, and the fees feel like it would be worthwhile just for that, and for pay raises and all the good working condition stuff that you get as well. But that's what initially turned me on to unions after years of not really knowing what they were all about. And now, thankfully, I work for a delightful university that has a faculty union.
Heck yeah. Are you involved?
I'm
Get more involved.
I was advised by our co-host to stay uninvolved until I'm tenured.
Oh, okay. That makes sense, I guess.
So I am not involved because I would like to have tenure, and then I can speak my mind a little easier.
Fair.
Yeah. I speak my mind anyway, but just to not get involved at all in politics of the university until then, because I step on toes and I don't know who's on the other side.
Fair. All right. Well,
one thing that constantly fascinates me in any research I've been involved with that has to do with corrections officers is how they get along with administration. And there's this constant butting of heads between officers and administration. Administration, they'll say, is too pro-inmate and doesn't favor working conditions for corrections officers. I don't hear the administration part as much, but they're trying to relax civil liberties and make things a little easier for inmates on the inside. And anytime that an inmate is given an extra privilege of any sort, corrections officers seem to take that as an affront on them when it doesn't necessarily have to be represented that way.
They take it as zero sum. Like if they're given something, it takes away something from them.
Yeah, but it's a false binary, right? Like it doesn't necessarily mean that it's putting corrections officers more at risk because inmates are allowed to have an extra picture in their cell or they have access to tablets or something like that.
Right. Like if anything, like stuff like that, like extra privileges help pacify them, which makes, the corrections officer's job easier. Like,
yeah, it's interesting to see with tablets, especially that seems to be the way that the conversation is turning. Oh, it's an electric babysitter.
Yeah,
and that's not a bad thing at all. It gives inmates something to do. It's making the facility money, and maybe not the most ethical of ways because it is overcharging for everything. But it is at least giving people something to do if they are going to be stuck in a place for a prolonged period of time. But yeah, it's one of those, like, maybe we shouldn't look at it this way, and we should look at it in the way also of don't abuse inmates. They are already being held here against their will. They have so few privileges, so giving them an extra thing doesn't mean your life is worse as a corrections officer.
Very true.
Now, I think that's all the news we can use for today. How about we move on to a little main event?
Oh, now it's time to hear a new topic. Full prison breakdown for you. So grab a chair and grab a beer and bring your kids and pitch a tent. We're so glad that you're here. Yeah, it's time for the main event.
I'm going to grab a kid, grab a beer, pitch a tent, main event.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, good. Before we get into the main event, We would like to thank our sponsor, Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies.
We certainly would. And what a fine offering they have of graduate certificates, graduate degrees, all sorts of stuff. We've got stuff like public administration, cloud computing, legal studies, forensic science, cybersecurity and networking, digital forensics, public management, cyber specialist. And coming in at number 2, we've got criminal justice. And of course, sorry, you're number 2, but number 2's not bad. Number 2, because the number 1, we've got leadership.
Oh no, beaten by leadership yet again, week after week. Leadership is just blowing us out of the water.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It happens. I mean, you're going up against the best ship in the fleet. Let me tell you that.
Second only to friendship.
Maybe.
Brothership.
Perhaps.
Receivership.
I don't know about that.
What other ships are there?
I don't know. You could put ship on the end of anything. Believership.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I won't do that, though.
No.
All right. Thank you, Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies. Now we're talking about hostages today. Brit, you ever been taken hostage before?
Not by a person.
Yeah, me neither. So let's talk about inmates taking hostages. It's a rare situation, and so rare that according to the FBI's hostage and barricade database system, it's more likely that I would get taken hostage in a barn than I would be taken hostage in a prison.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird that they would say barn, right? Like,
Yeah.
are there that many barn hostage activities?
I guess
There's not even that many barns that I've seen in my life.
that you've seen, but you don't live in the Midwest, so
That is very true. But
Yeah.
are you more likely to be taken hostage if there's a barn around?
yeah.
It's as good a place as any to take a hostage.
Yeah, farmers are unhinged, man. You ever been on the farmer dating website?
Why would I be on there?
Farmers Only or whatever?
Have you been on there?
Yeah, you look for fun in all types of places, brother.
You ever date a farmer?
Technically, yeah.
No.
Oh.
All right, that's cool.
Oh,
Never dated a farmer.
they're cool. They grow stuff.
Now-
They bring you all types of vegetables. It's nice.
I would like to have like a co-op friend,
Mm-hmm.
I digress. I'm on a correctional unit and I see inmates starting to riot. What do I do?
Curl up.
What's your first move?
Curl up into a ball.
You think that's gonna do it?
Yeah, that's what I do. No one's gonna attack me if I'm pathetic.
That's true.
Yeah.
Just show them how pathetic you are. Look desperate. I'm so sorry. I'll do whatever you want. Take my keys.
I'm not about to get stabbed for just being there. Come on, man.
Here's what you do. When I was a corrections officer, we would have these counselors' offices right behind us, and they actually had an alarm button in the office. The oh shit button, where if stuff starts going south, you step into that office, you close the door, it automatically locks. You hit the button, cavalry comes running. The option in most places is you lock yourself into a cell and then radio in an emergency, wait for the cavalry to arrive. Notify a supervisor as soon as you can, and be the best witness you can possibly be. Look to see how many other hostages there are. How many assailants there are? Who are the assailants? If you're working a unit, you probably have some idea of who's on the unit. But it's better for the authorities to know who's there so they can understand what the hostage takers are capable of and what they can use for negotiation when they're looking through the hostage takers' files. But you should also log what weapons are involved, what is the location of the incident, and are there any injuries? So getting into that cell is super important, though. It's one of the most secure places in a prison. They make it so you aren't supposed to be able to get in or out of that cell easily. And if you're the dude with the keys, nobody's getting into that cell.
Mm-hmm. It's true that.
Unless you have one of those electronic switchboards, in which case, like I don't know. Hopefully you get in your words quick enough and they can shut that shit down fast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a hostage, you also try to develop a line of dialogue with the hostage taker because you want them to see you as a human. Something we're going to see. This is a theme that's going to come back again and again. Because if you can humanize yourself to that hostage taker, they are less likely to brutalize you. They are less likely to harm you. The hostages themselves, though, they're this tool for making gains. They're just a bargaining chip. The hostage takers are they're using you, a human being, as a bargaining chip to get what they want. And keep in mind, a hostage taker isn't actually there to kill people. They're just trying to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the best interest of the hostage taker not to let the situation go violent. If they get violent, then the hostage taker becomes very expendable. They know that they're not going to win, though. Authorities are going to win every time. Mm-hmm. Anytime we've had a prison situation with hostages, authorities win. There's going to be high costs, but the perpetrators know they're at a major disadvantage. They are one inmate against a literal army of people.
Mm-hmm.
And before containment and negotiation starts, there might be some deaths and injuries that happen. And when negotiation actually opens up, any kind of deaths or injuries that do happen should just be ignored. We're trying to avoid any more injuries, any more deaths. So it's in our best interest to deal with those later. When we are talking to the hostage takers, we're trying to slow time and get this dialogue going between the hostage taker and the authorities so that they can be rational and hammer out an agreement that is beneficial to both parties in some way. But hostage takers, people don't take hostages when they're calm. Hostage takers are coming into the situation hot. They are so mad, they're emotional, and they're often making these like snap judgments and taking a hostage. But as your emotions get hot, what happens to your thinking?
Oh, it gets blurred. It's slurry. You get reckless. You get careless. You make mistakes.
Bingo. So emotions are increasing, thoughts decreasing. And how long can you actually say like super mad for?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, not very.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can like hold a grudge, but I can't like stay mad, like physically angry for very
physically
long.
angry. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So staying physically angry, it's only like 15 to 45 minutes that your body goes into this state. And hostage negotiators are trying to run down the clock on that.
Right,
Because once the hostage taker gets out of this super heated position, they're less likely to harm you. They're not thinking as emotionally.
Right.
So because most hostage situations are spontaneous, the hostage takers are making these impulsive decisions coming out of fear or anger, you're going to be a lot safer if they're not thinking so hot.
Mm-hmm.
And so popping your top, you're likely to be there like 15 to 45 minutes tops, but it's so exhausting to be in this emotional state where you're yelling, your blood pressure's up, you're gesticulating wildly with your hands all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the time when the hostage takers are most dangerous. That first hour is when they're at their most dangerous, and we see the greatest likelihood that something bad is going to happen. So the best thing to do is you let people vent. You try to hear them out. You let them express their emotions, and you try to make sure nobody gets hurt. Mm-hmm. Because the bottom line is like property can be repaired or rebought, but people are not an expendable resource.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, most hostage situations are resolved in like a matter of minutes or up to a few hours. The FBI and the Federal Bureau of Prisons, they suggest most hostage takers are people with characteristics of antisocial personality disorder. Now, what do you know about antisocial personality disorder? APD, we also call it.
It makes you feel alienated from society, and so you act out on it in ways that are non-pro-social in order to express yourself.
Yeah, if you think of someone described as a psychopath,
Mhm.
they often share a lot of the same traits. These are people who are lacking empathy. They're more impulsive, they're cold, they're cynical, they're irresponsible, and they are like indifferent to hurting or abusing other people and might display more reckless behaviors. And hostage takers are also people who have often like state-raised youth, people who have spent many years of their life in prison, people who are emotionally unstable, people who are showing these psychotic levels of behavior in stressful times. These are people who leave like trails of broken relationships. They have recurrent job losses, interrupted educational journeys, and these childhoods that are full of like emotional and sexual abuse and neglect. They'll often show violent or agitated behaviors just to avoid any kind of perceived abandonment. And these are people who have unstable and unpleasant moods. They're not the most fun to be around. I'm sure you, listener, have met them before. People like this. I've certainly met many in my lifetime. Producer Brit, you know a few.
I've known a few.
These are also people who are experiencing serious mental illness who are more likely to take hostages. People with schizophrenia showing social isolation and peculiar, like withdrawal type of behavior. Decreases in personal hygiene and grooming might be signs and signals. And people who are showing this like increasing paranoia.
Mhm.
So that would be the schizophrenic end. We also see people who are especially depressed become more likely though too. People who have moods that are depressed, sad, and irritable. Persons experiencing this diminished ability to think, to concentrate, to make decisions, or have these recurrent thoughts of death and suicide. It's people who are not thinking rationally who are ready to take hostages. Because, as I said earlier, the hostage taker they never win. They might get their way for a bit. They might get some things that they want, but in the long term, they're always going to lose. And because they're taking hostages, they're going to lose harder than they would otherwise.
Mhm.
It's like a casino. The house always wins. But hostage incidents are rare, as I said. And when inmates start making demands of you as the hostage, you try to avoid saying no. You want to avoid this outright answer of no.
Mhm.
You know why?
Because that makes them more prone to violence.
Totally. So you don't want to piss them off and get yourself hurt.
Mhm.
And you have to be careful not to lie to inmates, but also recognize that there are some demands that are impossible to meet.
Right.
I'm not going to give you the keys to my car and you're not going to walk out of here easily. It's not that simple. You have to recognize that nothing's going to happen very quickly while you're in the situation, though, too. So if you are in the situation and you are taken hostage, you didn't make it to that cell in time, just be prepared to wait. Sit in a corner, back to the wall, listen to the hostage takers and do what they say.
Mhm.
If you're an inmate taking hostages, you often have this like, what do I have to lose mentality? And the hostage takers, they're inmates who have often been in prison and been in prison for quite a while. So they're very knowledgeable about the environment and routine of the prison. And it can make the element of surprise less effective for the FBI or the DOC or whoever's coming in to save you, because the hostage takers are constantly going to be on their guard. So you got your back to the wall, you're sitting there trying to humanize yourself. And when you see bright lights and loud noises, put your hands on the back of your head, you hit the deck and listen to all instructions from your rescuers. And so I mentioned that you have to humanize yourself. This is such a big piece. Like, don't try to be a hero. Accept the situation. You don't have any power and you have to be prepared to wait. Follow the captor's instructions and don't speak unless you're spoken to. And when you do talk to them, maintain eye contact. Use your name, use their name. When we see a movie and someone goes, hey, please don't hurt me, I have kids, that's them trying to humanize themselves. Maybe if the hostage taker has kids, they'll see more eye to eye and they'll see this person as more of a person.
Mhm.
If you're a hostage, you also don't want to antagonize the hostage taker or piss them off. Don't try to make suggestions to them. If something goes south and you suggested it, it looks like you're trying to shit on their plan and they might target you because of that. You don't want to be a target. You want to be anonymous, especially if you're one of many hostages. Just blend into the crowd. How would you try to escape if you were a hostage?
I probably wouldn't, because that's going to get me killed.
It was a trick question. You don't try to escape.
Yeah.
Unless you're 100% sure you can make it. And even then, you should be like thinking and rethinking that plan, because if it fails, you're probably going to die.
Right.
Unless the whole thing is a bluff. Now, let's talk about negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
You might think this comes down to like facility administration, but it does not. Wardens are typically not involved when it comes to negotiation. Instead, it comes down to a team of individuals who are specially trained in hostage negotiation techniques. Anytime we see like a prison hostage event in a film, it feels like the warden is always the mouthpiece, right?
Yeah.
But negotiation teams are typically comprised of like a team leader, a primary negotiator, a secondary negotiator, a mental health expert, and like a scribe, a person to record everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And when you, as the hostage, are being held captive, you are considered to be under duress. And any directives you make are under threat of coercion. So even if you're the warden and you're taken hostage, anything you say is probably going to be disregarded because it's all under coercion. So if they have a gun to your head and you're saying you should let them go, give them this, give them that, it's all under coercion and they can't really take anything you say seriously.
Mm-hmm. True.
The warden should also assign this public information officer to be the one in contact with media representatives who are going to be at the prison, of course, if there is a hostage event. But they're going to be in places where their presence doesn't actually interrupt any ongoing management of the hostage situation. It's important to keep the media totally like on the outs, because getting them in closer is going to give more leverage to the hostage taker, and you don't necessarily want that either. Now we have 4 main approaches that get used with hostage teams. First, they try to contain, isolate, and negotiate with the hostage taker. So you're just trying to corral them into one area of the building, which is easy for a prison because everything is so compartmentalized by the nature of a prison. And then you isolate them, try to negotiate with them. Second, you can try to contain them and demand a surrender. And that can only really be done if you have way more leverage against the hostage taker. Third, you can use chemical agents to force a surrender. Now, we saw chemical agents recently, which will be discussed on an upcoming episode of Prison Breakdown, where we talk about episode 2 of Prison Break. But tear gas, OC spray, these are considered chemical agents that might be acceptable to end one of these hostage standoffs. And I've seen many situations end with somebody getting sprayed, and you can taste the after effects if you're walking down the hall near where it happened an hour later.
Oh gosh. Yeah, like pepper spray is the spiciest thing. It just like stays in the air. You walk past it and you're like, oh God. It's terrible.
Real talk. I would like to try food spiced with a pepper spray.
No, you wouldn't.
Wouldn't it be interesting to try like a rice with a dash of pepper spray?
No, you wouldn't. That's too much, man. You'll get yourself messed up.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
But I want to try it still.
Yeah, that's what happens when you go to the Thai restaurant and be like, 5-star spice, not the white man spice, and they go back and they just mace your food. Like,
the 5-star spice is no longer enjoyable to me. It hasn't been for years. Do you do it?
I mean, it depends on the place. Like I went to a Thai place last night and I got a 4-star spice, and I wish I would have gotten the 5-star spice because it wasn't quite spicy enough.
I've knocked it down to a 3-star spice. I want to enjoy my food a little more. I want the tastes of everything that's not spicy to come through too. It used to be a lot more fun for me. And then just over time, I get a little worn out from spice.
It does lose its novelty from doing it every time.
Yeah, it's a young man's game. So we went through our first 3 options to do with hostage takers. First, contain, isolate, negotiate. Second, contain and demand a surrender. Third, use chemical agents to force a surrender. Our fourth is tactical teams, baby. This is the last option, provided that none of the hostages have been wounded. Why would it be inadvisable to use tactical teams most of the time?
Because it's going to alarm the hostage taker and make them act out like immediately.
Yeah, we're forcing their hand, and we don't want to do that because that's when people get hurt. But more than anything, we're trying to preserve life here. That's the bottom line. If there's a hostage event, we'd want nobody to die. We want nobody to get hurt. So for the people running the show, it should only be the hostage negotiator who is in communication with the hostage takers. And they're not the ones who are even empowered to make the decisions on negotiable items. Any promises or concessions that the negotiator offers have to be signed off on by somebody higher up, like the warden or the sheriff has to sign off on all this. And when you're running the show, you also terminate all movement within the prison. So it's like an all prison lockdown. Nobody is going from one unit to another. People are not going to court. People are like, if somebody has to go to the hospital, there you go. But otherwise, no movement. And as I said, you're isolating the problem. You're closing all surrounding doors. You're trying to contain this problem in as small of an area as possible. And for the people working on it, also notify local law enforcement. They're there to help. But negotiation is key. And the priority should be keeping everyone safe. Negotiation policies themselves might be hardline, they might be softline, depending on the level of compromise allowed in the facility. And there's a degree of flexibility that's allowed in bending the line. And that totally depends on like the number of hostages, the importance of the hostages, like who are they? What is the mental state of the perpetrator? And and the limitations on the resources you have available and the capacity of the hostage taker to do harm to your hostages. But you have to be flexible, right? Like you don't want this hardline stance. You don't want to immediately come in hot like the other guy is and take this hardline stance and force them to show how serious they are by like executing someone. Now, if I am trying to pick someone to be a negotiator, what kind of people should be negotiators?
Definitely like very level-headed people who aren't like, driven to emotion very easily. People who are affable and seem like the type of guy you'd want to have a beer with. Type of guy.
Yeah, you want someone like charming, right? Who's got the riz.
Right. But not like a psychopath type, but although that does sound like a TV show, like the psychopath who's a hostage negotiator because he's so charming.
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels like there was like a spree of like the psychopath, but he's also a good guy shows for a while. Like around the time of like House and
Dexter,
Sherlock.
Dexter.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that'd be great if they had like he's a hostage negotiator who only takes hostages of other hostage takers. Wait, what?
So you have to like interrupt a hostage situation to like. So what happens to the original hostage? Are they just a double hostage?
Yeah, it's a double turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we are selecting people to be negotiators, they should be chosen based on their ability to communicate with people. That's huge. They should have solid physical health, solid mental health. They should be patient people. This is not I'm trying to crack it open, win, and on to the next thing. It doesn't work that way. You got to wait people out. And they should also be people who are like self-aware, have some capacity to monitor your own performance. If you are fucking up and you are getting people hurt, tap out. Hey coach, put someone else in. I'm out. But they should also be able to demonstrate authority in a situation. They should come in authoritatively and given this long leash for discretion, because all that really matters is you're trying to get people out without injury. That's the part that actually matters.
Yeah.
Now, there are some negotiables and non-negotiables. What do you think people can negotiate for?
I don't know, like in a prison setting? Like,
yep.
I guess like better benefits, like a better cell or a different cellmate or better food. I don't know, more TV time, like just certain like kind of, you know, just little benefits, nothing major, you know, not like early release or anything like that.
Yeah, so early release is totally off the table. And anything that is going to be a material comfort is going to be more short-term gains, long-term losses. Because by nature of taking people hostage, you are compromising your position entirely in the prison, and you will probably have a new trial because you have just taken people hostage.
Right.
So your negotiables are going to be more immediate. It's going to be stuff like food, water, electricity. Some people have tried to negotiate change to a different facility. I've not heard of anyone getting it, but I'm sure that people have because it's been in the lists that I've found online of stuff that you can negotiate for. Sometimes it will be access to the press. Here's a recording of me talking. Get this out to the press. So getting a larger soapbox, getting a bigger megaphone out to the general public. Hey, put my statement on TV, that kind of thing. Those have been negotiated for. But, and clothing also. What you can't negotiate for. You can't negotiate for early release. No sentence negotiations. No sentence commutations. No immunity from prosecution. That would be ridiculous. There's no release of other captors from custody. So I can't do the Air Force One move where the hostage negotiator has the president and he goes, we want this Gary Oldman friend in Russia. Yeah, let him out.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way. Maybe if it's the president, who knows? People with authority have all authority negated as hostages. As I mentioned, the warden is no longer the warden if they're hostage. They can't call any shots while they're hostages. And their life it has to be the same as everybody else's because their life realistically is not worth more than anybody else's. And there's no exchanges made for anything mind altering. So alcohol and drugs are out of the question. Sorry, pal.
Bummer.
Also out of the question, weapons, firearms. We also don't want something that can be used to hurt somebody. There's also no horse trading here. I can't trade one person for a hostage. I can't say, all right, I'm the hostage negotiator. Yes, you see that person back there? I'm going to take their place. It doesn't work that way. You can potentially make an argument for cigarettes. That's the closest thing to mind altering you can get. And I have heard of like people getting beer in the past, but to the best of my knowledge, that is generally on the not allowed list.
What about sex?
What about it?
Like, has anyone like tried to negotiate for like conjugal visits or anything like that?
I have never heard of anything like that because, as I said, it's all short-term gains. So it would have to be, hey, let this person in now, but then they would have to worry about that person being held hostage as well.
And also they'd have to worry about like traumatizing the people because like the hostage negotiator would have to have sex right there in front of all the hostages. And like,
is the negotiator or the?
I'm sorry. The negotiator on the antagonist side, which is the hostage taker. They're both negotiating, right? But we don't recognize that for some reason.
Yeah. They're just antagonist and protagonist negotiators.
Sure. Yeah. No, I didn't misspeak. I saved.
You're not saved if you have to say saved.
No. I'm pretty sure I'm saved. I saved that one.
All right. You see it one way, I see it another. But that's all I've got for today on hostage negotiation. At another date, we will talk more about it because there are many interesting hostage events that have taken place. And we'll see what some of these rules look like in action and some of the stuff that people have had to do to survive in hostage-taking situations. As a preview, it's often terrible. And these are awful situations that nobody wants to be in.
No.
But let's sew up this dandy and put a bow on it and move on to my favorite segment, the movie minute.
Movie minute. Movie minute. 60 seconds with producer Brit to talk about movies.
Speaking of hostage situations, last week, Judge Strah challenged me to watch 2024's Megalopolis. So, Megalopolis by Francis Ford Coppola from 2024 is a fever dream of a movie. Part allegorical retelling of the history of Rome, part modern-day treatise on the importance of artists and the foundations of society, part, I don't know, like resuscitation of lines from Francis Ford Coppola's favorite like philosophy books. But what it's really
and Hamlet. Don't forget Hamlet.
And Hamlet. But what it's really about is how the mayor of New York City is always dog shit. The movie centers around Caesar, played by Adam Driver, who's the head of the New York City Design Committee and can also, I guess, stop time. I don't know. He clashes with both the mayor and the son of the richest man in the world in his quest to build an urbanist utopia instead of a casino. I don't know how to process this film. It's one of the only films I've ever watched that feels both overlong and incomplete. Some scenes just end with zero resolution, and some actions and lines make utterly no sense, which I guess kind of tracks since on set, Coppola heavily emphasized improvisation, and it really shows with some characters, especially Shia LaBeouf's Poulter.
Yes, I'm glad you touched on this because
for the
his
culture,
character makes no sense.
I don't think he had any lines in the script. I think he just got on set and they're like, fucking go, baby. And they just let him. And he's like, I mean, he's impossible to not watch, but he's like terrible simultaneously. It's like a train wreck. He seems like he's having a good time, but he's genuinely bad at improvisation at this level.
Yeah, his plot... It like doesn't go anywhere, and then it goes everywhere real fast, and then it doesn't go anywhere. It's very the whole thing is very strangely paced. There's too many characters, and
they're all related, so which makes it more confusing.
It's a joy to watch, though. I have no complaints about the movie, and I loved watching it, but I know it's not good.
So what got me most was the ending.
I hate the ending.
Spoiler alert here, so skip ahead like 30 seconds if you don't want to get this spoiled. But they kill a baby. I think they accidentally make a baby starve to death in a purgatory frozen in time.
Oh, you see it as the baby was the one who stopped time, right?
No. Julia stopped time.
Okay.
Also, how did you like Julia Caesar? Great, right? Super clever.
It's clever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Nothing in this movie is clever. It's all intended to be clever. It's not.
No, this film thinks it's so smart, and it makes me believe that Francis Ford Coppola is truly dumb. Like
it makes me think he's demented. He's
a dumb guy who thinks he's really smart. Like he just thinks like knowing quotes is like what smart people do. He has this really weird old fashioned sense of like intelligence, and it's really dumb. And it doesn't fit with the time at all. But yeah, this film, like, I was entranced the entire time, and it had so much ambition, but it went nowhere. Like, it is an immensely watchable film that is nonetheless not fun in any way.
No, there's it's like 40 minutes before the end of the movie. Another spoiler alert. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear any of this. There's a point where Caesar, what is his name? Caesar Chavez?
No, Caesar Cagliari or something.
Caesar Catalina.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Caesar Catalina gets shot in the face, and then he uses his wacky substance on his face to regrow his face.
They
and
literally
regrows his
shoot
face.
half of his head off, and they just like use a construction material to regrow him. Like we have the power to rebuild him. Cute.
It was like, this doesn't make any sense, and it was done poorly, and it looked bad, but I loved it.
And then his face like lit up like a fucking when he took the bandages off, like he was magical or something. And I'm like,
like he had Christmas lights in his skull. That's what it looked like. It was very
and I was
weird.
like, what is happening in this film?
It also gave him this power to stop time that was never actually used in any effect in the story.
Not really, no. Except for the ending, which makes it a huge tragedy. But yeah, confusing mess, 2 soups.
There are a few movies I have so little disrespect, or I have so little respect for, but I enjoy so thoroughly, like this movie. Nothing about it's confident.
I would compare it to like Southland Tales in terms of ambition, scope, but ultimate like meaninglessness.
I would also like to play a short clip from the film. My favorite line. Oh shit!
So go back to the club, bear it all, and stop.
Did you get that?
Yeah, back to the club.
I like when he says, "So go back to the club."
Oh.
I think it's good.
Yeah, cool. All right, yeah. So that's Movie Minute. What you got for me next time, baby?
All right, your sentence is something good.
Mm-hmm.
The film is Nickel Boys from 2024.
I'm excited to watch that. I've heard great things.
We are back on track for a prison-based movie, and I'll also watch it so we can have more dialogue about this next time. But it looks to be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I'm into it.
Well, let's call an end to this here podcast. Order in the court and case dismissed. Case being this podcast.
Good one.
Thanks again. I know. Thanks again to Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies for being our beloved sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks again to all the cases we've ever dismissed. Bronson, we love you. We miss you. Love and kisses and chicken soup. And get well soon.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I'm going to turn the lights out. Please like, please rate, please subscribe, and catch you later, everyone.
Yep.
See you on the other side.
That's it.